Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Colin's Corner. I believe this is episode number 20, the 20th episode, which is kind of, I guess, a milestone every 10th, I guess. I guess 25 is bigger than 20 for some reason. People have decided that. Um, anyways, was playing a little Coltrane, John Coltrane, of course. A little jazz for the day. So, anyways, I wanted to talk about accountability. Specifically, taking accountability in your own life. There's a lot of different ways you can take accountability. But there's this thing that I thought of last night. I immediately wrote it down in my notes. It wasn't some grand thing, but my friends tell me you have so many good ideas, write them down. I never do. So now I'm trying to do that more. So taking accountability, I wrote on my whiteboard. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you who don't follow me on social media may not have seen it. I said, you can't shoot your... I said, you can't shoot yourself in the foot and then complain that it hurts. You know, like, you did it to yourself. You can't sit here and do nothing with your life and complain that there's nothing good happening. You know, like you can't sit there and eat chips and pizza and soda all day and complain you're getting fat. You can't sit there and not exercise and not stretch before your game or whatever, and then you hurt yourself and you're like, wow, like hurt myself. Yeah, you did. Like, can you actually physically complain about something? Yes. But do you have, the right to complain about it? Do you have the right to say no? Because if you didn't take any sort of accountability, if you didn't take any sort of like preparedness, like I got ready, if you fail a test, but you didn't study for the test, and then you go around complaining all day to everybody, why did I failed the test, I failed the test, I failed the test. You go up to your teacher, you say, I failed the test, like what, I can you bump my grade or whatever, and the teacher's like, you didn't study. Like if you don't prepare for something, if you don't take accountability in your life, you can't complain when things are not going your way. The the luckiest man, this is something my dad told me, and I don't know who said this quote. He said, and I'm sure his father before him told him this. He said, the luckiest man is the hardest working man. Like fortune favors the person who works really hard all the time. So if you're taking accountability in your own life and you're checking every box you can, you're making sure you got all your ducks in a row. You're making sure you got everything straight. Then you will never have to, you know, you won't have to complain about stuff. You won't have to worry about stuff. It'll be taken care of. You do what you can. You don't worry about the outside forces. And you take accountability and you say, okay, there's things going on in my life. How do I fix them? How, like, do I want it to be better? Is it fine the way it is? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Do I need to upgrade? Like, constantly be reevaluating these things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, but understanding that ultimately you're in charge of it. You can blame all the people you want. You can blame all the outside forces you want. But if you didn't, you know, you could say, oh, I shot myself in the foot. Well, I was, and this is, I don't know, maybe this is a bad example, self-harm, but, you're like, oh, well, everyone else drove me to do it. Well, ultimately, you chose to do it. I mean, that's a horrible, terrible example. I'm realizing as I'm saying it now. But the logic kind of applies in some way, I guess. That no matter what's going on around you, your performance, the way that you treat people, the things that you say, how you act in your day-to-day life, how you go about succeeding, trying to succeed, how you go about all that stuff, that ultimately lands on you. It lands on nobody else. Nobody else can, take accountability for your mistakes. Nobody else can take accountability, can own your successes. But when things don't go your way, when you try and push it off on other people, that's when the problems start. Because number one, people will find out very quick that you're just pushing stuff on them. They won't like that. Number two, if you're honest, you're hardworking, like fortune, luck, if you believe in all that stuff, it favors you, because the person that's sitting here cheating on stuff, cheating on a test or, you know, trying to take the shortcut and lying and manipulating, that person is not very lucky. I feel like most of the time that person ends up getting theirs. That person ends up not in a good place. Someone who tries to take advantage of people and you're not honest and you're not this and you don't take accountability, you don't take responsibility. That person never ends out on top. But you hear all these stories about people who, they work so hard and they just don't get the opportunity, and finally, because the stars aligned, because God made it so, something happened in their life and they broke through because all those years of blood, sweat, tears, and taking accountability, that is what gets you there. That's what gets you to the top. That's what gets you to be successful in any field, in any way, is to take accountability and say, what am I doing that is not as good as it could be, that is not as good as it should be? And when you do that, and when you find those things, and you work and you work and you work, finally, you'll get to a place where you're like, man, I'm doing some really great things. But we all have problems in our life. We all have things that we're putting off. We all have things that we know we should do that we don't do at all. We convince ourselves that it's okay or that we have tomorrow or that this or that or the other. None of that is true. None of that exists. None of that. All the excuses, all the blame on other people, none of it matters if you don't take accountability for your actions. In the end, I can say that this didn't happen because this guy and this guy and this guy didn't do this or didn't do that. But ultimately, the responsibility falls on me. It doesn't fall on anyone else. It's my life, and I have to take accountability for it. And if I don't take accountability for it, there's consequences. That's how it goes. You can't spend your whole life just blaming things on other people, sweeping stuff under the rug. You'll never end up successful that way. Nobody has ever ended up successful that way for any reason. It's just not possible. Now people say, oh, there's tons of people that have lied their way to the top. I get it, but again, in the end, I believe that God is fair and that things will not turn out exactly how those people and everyone else thinks it will. You have to take accountability. You have to take responsibility. You have to ask yourself every single day, what am I doing that is not as good as it could be? Then you'll become successful. It'll take a while. You might have to fix a ton of things. You might have to go over that paper and cross out a lot of stuff with red lines. And you might have to rework a lot of things in life. And that's what life's all about. Life is all about consistently going and moving forward and coming up with new ways to do things, and coming up with new solutions, and coming up with ways to innovate. That's what it's all about. It's just all about the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. My friend, she says it's a circle, like it just everything comes around. Everything comes around. And if you take accountability and you do things honestly, all that will come back to you at some point. At some point, it will all come back to you. You don't have to worry about, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, I'm not getting what I deserve. You will always get what you deserve. So will everyone else. Stop blaming people for your mistakes. Stop blaming people for your mess ups. Stop blaming people every time something else goes wrong in your life and no one was even around to see it or hear it. That's on you. And when you have success, enjoy it and celebrate it. But don't be selfish. Don't go around, I did this, I did that. Don't make it all about you. Right? Take accountability, and when you do, good things will end up happening. and then you succeed and enjoy that, but be humble about it, you know? And that's being humble is a whole other Colin's Corner. So I feel like I've pounded it into your head enough, maybe, to take accountability, you know, to ask yourself every day, say, what am I doing that is not as good as it could be and is not as good as it should be? And once you do that, watch all the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. All right? If you would, please click that subscribe button, like or comment. I would appreciate all those things. And I will catch you on the next Colin's Corner.